What's up, you guys? This is Rob from PSFOREPLAYERS, and today on the rundown, this hot piece of glass is ready to smash when we take a look at Gara. You can pick up Gara's blueprint by completing the Size Vigil quest, which becomes available after you've completed your first Cetus bounty, while the rest of her parts drop as rewards from Kozu's job board. Now, statistically, she's got a nice energy pool and sprint speed, but aside from that, she's fairly standard with only a slight bump to her armor. And while numbers don't lie, it's her skill set that really allows her to shine, zoning out enemies, making her a perfect frame to take up defensive positions. This is perfectly displayed in her passive, which grants her a chance to blind surrounding enemies when in bright light, stunning them and opening them up to melee finishers. And with that said, let's reflect on the rest of her kit. Her first ability, Shattered Lash, manifests a glass longsword that gives you two different options for use. A quick click allows you to plunge your sword forward, dealing puncture damage and knocking down enemies in its path. Holding down the ability performs one of the most hilarious abilities in game, a slash-based 180-degree sweep that basically swats enemies away in the swipe's direction. The damage inflicted is affected by base, elemental, and physical damage mods equipped on your melee weapon. Just keep in mind that if you are using slash or puncture specific mods, they will only modify their corresponding attack. And if following in suit, impact specific mods have no effect on the ability whatsoever. It also isn't affected by weapon specific mods, the melee combo counter, or the stealth multiplier. Gara's second ability is Splinter Storm, and it is freaking amazing. She shatters her glass armor, giving herself damage resistance, which caps out at 90% with as little as an intensify, and an aura that deals damage to surrounding enemies, slowly repelling them away from you. This effect can be maintained on multiple targets at once. Casting this on an ally grants him the same benefits, whilst casting it on an enemy centers the damage aura around them and granting you bonus damage against the targeted enemy. Now, this is where I start to sound like I'm the host of an infomercial, because legitimately, that is not all. Whenever one of her Specter Age mirrors shatters in range of any of her Splinter Storms, the shards increase the damage of that storm, meaning that you can toss down a Specter Age, then toss down a Splinter Storm on an enemy inside, and as they shatter the mirrors, they'll begin to take increased damage. But wait, there is more. Casting Mass Vitrify will refresh the duration of Splinter Storm on Gara and any allies caught within the expanding glass. And if you thought I was done there, you are wrong, because baby, we got a bonus offer. When Shattering Mass Vitrify, if you or an allied unit affected by the storm is caught within the explosion that occurs on the outside of the glass ring, they absorb that damage, boosting the aura's damage output. And for those of you curious, this effect can stack multiple times. This is a limited time offer, phones are busy, so I would suggest you pick one up today. Next up, we've got Specter Age. This one summons a spinning carousel of mirrors at your targeted location that attract enemy ire. Upon destruction, each mirror deals damage back to its attacker, and once enough mirrors have been destroyed, the carousel collapses, dealing damage to all enemies inside of it. Note that the amount of mirrors produced is dependent on range, as well as the amount of mirrors that is needed to cause the collapse. Personally, I am a big fan of this ability, as it seems to be one of the better decoy skills out there, and does a great job of drawing enemy attention, but do be aware it only seems to work against enemies inside the Specter Age, and does very little for enemies outside of it. But then again, I guess that's how most mirrors work. And finally, we arrive at Gara's ultimate ability, Mass Vitrify. Gara sends forth a wave of molten glass, draining energy for each second maintained. As the wave expands outwards and downwards, any enemies that make contact with the liquefied glass are slowed over the course of 3 seconds till they get nice and hard, and are temporarily frozen in place, taking 50% bonus damage while they remain hardened. The ring itself solidifies into an impenetrable glass wall, blocking enemy attacks and preventing most enemies from coming through. However, allies are free to come and go as they please. Gara can shatter Mass Vitrify with the use of her first ability, causing the wall to explode, dealing damage to all enemies outside of the ring. So all in all, Gara is fucking fantastic. Her skill set just has so much synergy and utility built into it, and it takes some of the best parts of other people's kits and makes it her own. I mean, just taking a look at Mass Vitrify, it's basically like Atlas's Rockwall on crack, but instead of being HP based, it's actually duration based like Volt's shield, allowing you to create a safe space for a set duration instead of worrying about enemies whittling it down. In addition to that, she's got Splinter Storm, which is basically like Mesa's Shatter Shield. However, it's got a built-in Ember's World on fire. She is fan-freaking-tastic. Now, that about does it for the facts and figures. If that's all you're here for, then I will see you next time. However, there are many tips and tricks still to come in the gameplay, so hopefully you'll stick around for that. Alright, so for those of you guys who haven't already seen it, Gara's ultimate did get a bit of a tweak. As you can see now, it actually creates a ring that expands both downwards and outwards. Which basically allows you to kind of cover a large landscape, because what was happening in Plains of Eidolon was basically, you would cast Gara's ultimate, and because of the fact that the landscape was a bit uneven, what ended up happening was the fact that you would just create a ring, and there would be big gaps underneath the ring, allowing enemies to basically like come through and fuck up your day. But now, because of the changes that they recently made, you can actually create a, a ring that enemies can't get through. As you can see, this ambulance is just kind of like sitting right there, like a dope on a rope. But you can actually cast this as you are, aim gliding, which gives you a nice tall ring. So let's see, let's go right here. And you can just bring it down straight out, and as you can see, none of these guys can get through, which is absolutely fantastic. The next tip that I actually want to give is, number one, when you shatter your shield, always do your best to shatter it while you are outside of the shield. And the main reason that you want to do that is so that you can kind of collect up stacks for the ultimate, or no, for the shatter shield, because as you can see right here, it's actually dealing a good chunk of damage. I'm not even attacking these enemies, I'm literally just walking by them, and they're pretty much melting, which is basically why I'd said it's like having a World on Fire mixed with, mixed with Mesa's Shatter Shield. So as you can see, doing a good chunk of damage right there. Are you my friend or are you my enemy? But let's walk up to this guy. Oh, like seriously melted straight out of the gate. Let's see if we can look at numbers. That's 22k. Look at that. 22k on a World on Fire is not something that you normally see. Now, I know a lot of people are going to look at that number and be like, what? That's kind of insane. And yes, it is. But the one reason why I feel a little bit safe in it is because it is one of those things that you do have to manage. You have to make sure that, number one, you're on the outside of the ring when you shatter the shield. And number two, you have to make sure that you're refreshing the shield using the ultimate. So I think it's kind of like a cool way for DE to incentivize the use of multiple of Gara's abilities in order to get a really cool effect. And in addition to that, you have to make sure to stay on top, because that's one thing. You want to watch your timers with Gara a lot, because you want to make sure that you can refresh your shield so that you can keep that big number, right? Because as soon as that shield goes away, the number goes away. That's 33k and change. Look at that. Holy crap. That's absolutely amazing. One of the other tips that I do want to give out, because I know that we're focusing a lot on the 4 and on the 2 here. Ooh, that's still a good chunk of damage. It's still a good chunk of damage. Is that Specter Age is actually pretty sick as well. You can actually go ahead and put that in any area that kind of like gets a lot of foot pathing, foot traffic, and what ends up happening with it is enemies will walk into it and kind of like stay in the middle of it, right? And then you can kind of go ahead and just sweep them whenever they've kind of collected. Let me break this real fast, and let me go ahead and do another one of these. Now you can get up on different heights to kind of create different heights of things, as you can kind of see here, to make it a little bit taller. But you know, sometimes you just want to kind of like casually bullet jump instead of like try harding it. But as you can see, it deals a lot of damage, and it allows you to deal a bunch of damage in soup. Look at that. So let's go ahead and toss down a Specter Age. Now remember, it's only enemies inside the Specter Age that are really going to be affected by it. I found that enemies outside of it kind of, I mean, they pay a little bit of attention to it, but it's not like an insane amount of protection. Of attention. One of the other things that I like about Specter Age is it actually synergizes really, really well with the 1, because all of the enemies tend to gather inside of the Specter Age. Like, as soon as they're in there, they kind of like cluster up in there, and they're kind of like dizzied by all of the, ooh, let me make sure to recast this. They're kind of dizzied by all of the mirrors that are kind of spinning around them that they need to deal damage to. I'm just gonna literally walk up to these enemies and just melt them with this. But yeah, so they all kind of cluster up in there. So think about it this way: if you're into using explosive weapons or weapons that do area of effect damage, kind of like the lens, think of it perfectly like that. It's a great place to cluster enemies, is in that Specter Age, and deal a shit ton of damage to them, because they've all kind of stuck into the same place, right? It's absolutely fantastic that way. Or, you know, if you've collected enough shards, you can just go ahead and walk up to them with your abilities and move on with your day. Let's see. Let's do a little bit of that action. A little bit of that action. But yeah, so I know that I haven't actually gone and shown you guys any of the builds right now, and that's mainly because of the fact that I'm playing around with a couple different builds. A duration build that works really, really well with the shields. However, it is a little bit, how do we say, lackluster when it comes to the range on it. I'm playing around with another one that requires set mods and kind of like fools around with arcanes, which is absolutely fantastic, but it is kind of very specific. And then I have a more general one. I'm trying to get a feel of what I exactly want to show you. But regardless, I'm really, really excited for this. The thing that I love the most about this is it proves that DE is willing to give us power. It's just that we have to work for that power, you know, making sure that we're watching timers, making sure that on top of watching those timers that we're interacting with certain things in a certain way to get a desired effect. Very, very impressed with Gara. Really, really love her a lot. Love the model. Love all of the skills. Love how they kind of like interplay with each other. And you guys know I'm a big fan of utility frames that allow you to kind of like go in hard with weapons. But this isn't just going hard with weapons. This allows you to go in hard with actual abilities that like scale up the longer that you're in a mission. Regardless, I think she's absolutely fantastic. Let me know how you guys feel about her in the comments below and all of her cool mechanics. And as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and stay tuned because we gonna do the build next. All right, I'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.